Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome one and all to another live stream. I'm very pleased to have in the virtual studio a new friend, a client, Michelle Carr. She represents a number of different businesses, H2, Construction Alchemy, but they all really fall under one brand, which is Michelle Carr. And we've got a new, beautiful, resplendent logo in the corner there. Michelle Carr has a mission, and this mission is really to help those who have historically not been helped, subcontractors, the ones that fall between the house owner or the property owner and those who are commanding the constructors or the people in between to get the work done. Often overlooked, often maligned, often underrepresented and unsupported. But before we get to that, Michelle Carr, welcome. Thank you for taking the time out to be here. What led you on this path? I can't imagine you were at school thinking, I've got to defend electricians.
No, I think when I was younger, I wanted to be a policewoman, but
I could see that.
Yeah, that didn't go to plan. So theoretically, I've been part of construction my whole life. My dad had a main contractor, so I've been surrounded by it since I was a.
So you had no option really, had you?
Well, I tried to get into face-to-face sales, but the normal thing with teenagers when you want to get a job is you don't have the experience, and you can't get the experience without getting the job. So I went to sales and I travelled and I went and sold timeshare and all these other things. Came back, still didn't work, and my dad said, "I need an accountant or a quantity surveyor. What do you want to do?" And I thought accountants were boring, so I chose quantity surveying, and that's how I started being a quantity surveyor.
So quantity surveying, not the normal work route that most children who want to get into construction. A lot of them end up either hod carrying or maybe architecture or design. But you wanted to be a quantity surveyor. Explain that to me.
So, because my dad had quite big main contractors, I used to spend a lot of time in the office, either after school, waiting for my brother to finish school, or in school holidays, this, that, and the other. And then I started. There was a really lovely woman. Her name was Sally, and she worked for my dad for a number of years. And I used to sit in her office and help her. And I was doing. She showed me how to do takeoffs, and I do got bits of filing and all the things that quantity surveyors really don't like doing. And I was young and keen, and then I did 3 months work experience with her and the rest of the team.
So was she a quantity surveyor herself?
She still is.
Right. Yeah. So it kind of rubbed off.
Yeah, and I love construction. I mean, I went to a 20-year reunion from my school, and I can remember half the people that my friends from school were talking about, but I knew exactly the buildings. I knew where had gone, where the extension was, where this was, and I could explain every single part of the building and how it changed in 20 years, but I could not tell you half of my classmates. It just went over my head, and I just thought, I was always supposed to be in construction. I think I was just born into it, if that makes sense.
You like the way things are put together.
I'm dyslexic, so I have to be careful because I'm not very good with things going the wrong way around. So whenever you see one of my documents, there are checks everywhere. So I make it idiot proof and Michelle proof. But I like how things work. I like challenges. I like if someone tells me this can't be done, I will not give up until I've done it once.
Yeah, we have that in common, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the challenge. I like the go. I like the hustle and bustle. I like the fact that, in all honesty, back then, going to an all-girls school, an industry that didn't have many women in it, was really appealing because I had a bit of a rough time in an all-girls school.
Hang on a moment. So let's just backtrack a second. Hold the phone. You knew that this industry was going to be hard work, didn't you? You knew this, right? And you're saying you were so bloody minded, you were going to bloody enter it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an attraction? Is this a theme throughout your life?
Yeah, don't tell me I can't do something, because I'll do it fine.
Yeah, you'd be a terrible tightrope walker, Michelle. Yeah, okay.
I couldn't. Yeah. Don't even go down that road.
All right.
I'm scared of heights, so that's a bit of an issue with tightrope walking. But yeah.
Well, do you know what? Okay, so this is what has driven you, hasn't it? Really, you want to.
So that did drive me. and I have really high expectations for myself, and I don't like anything that's easy because I just get bored. But so construction was great for me, and I really enjoyed it, and I did my degree, and I started my degree 5 months pregnant, which obviously wasn't a planned thing to do.
It's not considered normal to do that.
No, nothing I do is normal.
Not normal. You aren't normal, Michelle.
No, normal's, well, I hear normal's overrated, but I wouldn't actually know. Word average. I'm not average, that's for sure.
Hang on a second. So, guys, most of you know that I'm autistic and dyspraxic. Michelle also has her own tisms, and it's one of the reasons why we get along so well. But you are using them, or rather bucking the trend with them to your own advantage. Is that this is what I'm hearing?
Yeah, so one of the things that I do, which is where the word alchemy came from, is I have a tendency to take what's in front of me and make the most of it. So, for example, having diagnosis of bipolar ADHD, a lot of people would have just probably stopped and not carried on and used that label to hide from the rest of their life. And I was just like, okay, fine. And I remember having a conversation with one of the mental health team, who I still speak to on occasion, very, very good doctor. And I said to him, so come on, tell me, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad have I got it? How bad have I got it? What am I dealing with? And he was like, right, Michelle, bipolar and schizophrenia are as bad as it gets. And there isn't a scale of 1 to 10. You've got it or you don't. It's
an on-off switch, isn't it? Really?
You need to get your head around this. You are not going to, and it's not a challenge. It's impossible to cure. Right, so what do I do then? And he said, you just learn to manage it. So I tried loads of things, I did loads of research, and now I don't, compared to a lot of other people with bipolar, I manage it like a boss, but every now and again, I don't like to say it's totally under control because it has a tendency to hit you right between the eyes like a freight train. But you just learn to manage it. And it's the same with my ADHD. So there are days where I'm not going to get much done, and I know that at 7 o'clock in the morning, and so I just like, okay, that's fine, write the day off. I'll end up getting much more done once I've written the day off. But then there's other days that I know full well that at 5 o'clock in the morning, as soon as I've woken up, today is going to be one of those days, and I can do 7 pieces of work that could maybe take a normal person.
I absolutely vibe with that. I get that exactly.
My degree, when I did my quantity surveying degree, and to be fair with my law degree, I would go into the library at the university, and I would surround myself, when I needed a piece of coursework done, I would surround myself with maybe 6 or 7 different books that I needed for reference, and I would do an entire piece of writing, which would be at minimum 3, maybe 4 or 5,000 words, depending on what subject it was. And I would do that in 2 or 3 hours, whereas my peers would take them 2 or 3 weeks, because I had a child and I didn't have time all the time. You can't be writing pieces.
Yeah, that's hyper focus for you, isn't it? That's...
And so I use the hyper focus, but also it makes me compassionate. And where I've learned to understand my own mental health, and my own brain, it makes it easier to understand other people's. And what I do is, with each of my clients and everyone in my life, to be fair, I figure out how they work, and then manage the way that I either write to them or speak to them or whatever it may be. How I deal with that person, communicate that person is different, because I deal with them in the most optimal way. So how I communicate with you would be slightly different to how I would communicate with other people, because I know how I can be just me to you and you kind of get it. And if you feel offended or something isn't quite right, you don't understand it, you'll go, don't get that. It's quite black and white between you and I. Whereas I know with some other people, I have to be a bit more careful how I do things.
This has been my lifelong struggle. It's remembering that some people don't get it. So we can unmask in front of each other. We don't have to make the nasty words nice. We can be direct and blunt and say, I don't like this, I do like that, I want more of this and less of that. And it just makes for, I get you, all you norms out there. I tell you what, communication between us is so simple. But anyway, all right, enough of that. I want to know how it came from all of this.
Yep.
Dare I say it, doing things in the wrong bloody order. I mean, you don't really get pregnant and then start doing a degree. That's a silly. But anyway, Hashtag just saying. But you came out
You
the
also
other.
don't get that child to 14 and then decide to have another baby, end up with twins either.
No, that's also nutty. She's got twins, and guys, just so you know, they're already trying to pass each other off as each other. When they get to 14 or 15, they're going to be a handful. Anyway, moving on. They're delightful, but still, we can see that the evil twins syndrome coming through. Anyway, no, I don't mean that. I mean, you know what I'm saying. But what I want to know is, you started a sort of construction company, H2. You started a quantity surveying company, right? And they're both successful in their own right. You're now trying to pull them all together under one brand, and then I guess apply whichever is needed to the problem in hand. Is that what I'm sensing here?
Yeah, so there's a number of things that I do, and I also want to start doing developments, but that's another conversation for another time. Because primarily keeping things separate for insurance purposes. So it's a little bit different for me to separate things, the different aspects of what I can and can't do on my skill set. But insurance get really excited about things. And so for insurance purposes, I have different skills and different services for different companies. But ultimately, when you work with me, you get me in a whole, and then I just sort of distribute the bits internally and make sure all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, etc. Because that's what I do.
Well, I get all that, but what I wanted to allude to is I nicknamed her recently the guardian angel of construction. The reason why is she's now got a mission.
Yeah, so my mission is to protect the good people or in the construction industry. So another thing that I often say is taking the con out of construction, because the construction industry is probably, I believe, what used to be the biggest GDP in the country, but also more to the point, it employs most people in this country. So a lot of subcontractors are tradesmen, and a lot of them that have grown have just been someone that was an electrician or a carpenter or whatever in the trade, had a little bit of something about them, decided, hold on a second, I want to do a bit more than this, and then created a company, and it goes from there. And the same thing happened with my dad. He ended up with starting doing a little bit of building here, there and everywhere, and next minute 10 or 15 years later, he had a company that had a turnover of 75 million. Now, I've seen that happen in my own environment, and I've seen it happen to many people. What happens with subcontractors primarily is they always get bashed, and it's called subby bashing. And within the industry, everyone knows a bit of subby bashing, and it's getting worse and worse. And there's also a massive divide of wealth split in the world, and it's quite rife in construction. So you'll have the big companies that are taking all the money, and then they want to make the most profits, and the people that are doing the majority of the work get the least profits. And it's just like this, and I don't like things like this. And I just think we all have a responsibility to make the world a better place. So what I'm trying to do is do a little bit more like this. Now, I might be able to get it here, but I doubt it. But at least do something so that ultimately the subcontractors themselves are earning what they should be earning and what they rightly deserve to be earning, and not getting ripped off. Because what happens all the time, and it's totally against the law now, is...
But it still happens.
So a main contractor will have a project, and it will say how it could have between 20 and 50 different subcontractors, depending on the project. And they'll have, whether their contract is 12 months or 6 months or 3 months, you have an interim valuation period. So everyone's applying for their money on a monthly basis. And then they'll say, yeah. And then final account comes, and all of a sudden they dangle these carrots, because cash is king in everything, especially construction. They'll dangle this carrot, and all of a sudden there's a final account and they're owed 120,000, but they'll go, oh, we'll pay you 60 and we'll pay you now. And it happens all the time that subcontractors take that 60,000 and they lose their profits and they lose their margins, because they're so desperate to do it, because they don't want to fight the main contractor for 3 months. And the main contractors know that. A lot of the main contractors have got...
So is there almost a casual assumption now that when it comes to coughing up, we'll just slice it in half?
I mean, that's probably a big exaggeration, and I don't think a lot of people would do that, but potentially it does happen, and it might not.
Okay, let me be less dramatic about it. When it comes to totting up, that they will assume they will have a shortfall, and that's all. And we shouldn't be doing that. That's terrible. The indicated price on the tin should be the price that's paid, right?
I mean, I've never known it in over 25 years for a cost that you've agreed and the contract that you've written to be exactly the same, because construction
they usually they spiral costs as you realize that materials don't work quite the way you expected, or the conditions in which those materials are going to work aren't quite ideal, or whatever.
It's usually the client that changes their mind. And then, I mean, I've had this conversation with so many people, especially end users that have had work on their house, either built a house or done a big extension or done some work. Oh yeah, well, it was supposed to be this much and then it ended up this much, and it was supposed to take 6 months and ended up 12 months. And I always say to them, right, if you go where do you shop? Whether it's Tesco's, Waitrose, wherever. When you go shopping, if you buy £100, if your usual shop is say £100 a week and it takes you half an hour, 40 minutes, right? If you then go in another day and you're going to do a big shop, that will probably cost you what, £200, and it might take you an hour to do that shop.
Right.
So the more work you're doing, the longer it's going to take. And it for me, it's so simple. And then people go, oh, yeah.
Well, it's because they don't relate it that way.
No, and some people, so yeah, it's trying to relate things in the way they understand. But a lot of the time it's clients' changes, and they'll make a change, but actually they don't understand or appreciate the cost of that change. And then all of a sudden the change has been done, it's been built, you get the bill, and they don't want to pay it.
So look, guys, I hope you got from this short interlude a sense of Michelle's direction of travel. We're going to be talking more about this over the next few weeks. You'll hopefully see a number of bits of content going out there, which is going to illustrate all of this as well. Please feel free to make comments, to come back or ask questions. But in the meantime, thank you so much for this initial window, Michelle. And guys, I hope you look forward to seeing more, as I do. And remember, look after yourselves, look after your mental health, and try and keep your feet on the ground and reach for the stars. Until the next time we speak, I wish you all very well and have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye now.